February 20th, 1987. This is Joe, Todd, and Yvonne Madison. An interview with Nola Belle Hopkins King in Oklahoma City. Man, where were you born?
Longview, Wagons County, Texas.
Longview, Texas. May I ask your birthday?
March 17, 1898.
1898. Who was your father?
Harvey Henry Hopkins.
Harvey Hopkins. And who was your mother?
Harriet Ann Wilhite Hopkins.
How do you spell Wilhite?
W-I-L-H-I-T-E.
H-I-T-E. Where were your parents from?
My mother's originally from Texas, and my father's originally from Alabama.
Alabama. Did you know your grandparents?
No. Nothing about it.
What about any great aunts or uncles?
Uncle and auntie, but I didn't read my mother.
Have you ever heard any stories of the slave days from your parents?
I heard a lot of them, but I can't relate one.
Okay, your father was from Alabama. When did he come to Texas?
I really don't know, because they were married in Texas.
They were? What kind of work did your father do?
He was a school teacher.
School teacher. As a small girl, what chores did you do around the house?
Now, what do you mean, a small girl now?
Oh, as a little girl at home, 5, 6, 7 years old, what chores did you have to do around the house? Have to do laundry, wash dishes?
Oh, yeah, wash dishes, yeah. Laundry.
How'd you do laundry?
With a tub on a rubberboard.
You do it inside or outside?
Both. Sometimes in the house and sometimes it's outside. If it's warm enough, we were outside. Sometimes on the porch. Had to draw the water.
How far from the house was the well?
It was on the porch.
It was on the porch.
At that time. Well, right on the edge of the porch.
You have a pitcher pump? You know the pitcher pumps on the well?
Pump?
Yeah, what kind of pump did you have on the well?
No, I say you draw it, have a rope.
Oh, yeah, a rope and a bucket.
Rope and a bucket.
How deep was the well?
I can't imagine how many 100 feet it was. It would be over 100 feet. Usually.
Now, did you live in the town of Longview?
No, I never lived in town till I came here. All my life I was born and reared on the farm.
How far from Longview was the farm?
We were 10 miles from the farm, from Longview.
Which direction?
West.
West. And how big was the farm?
I don't know. The one we lived on was ought to have been around 200 acres.
What kind of crops did you raise?
Cotton, corn, peas.
You ever chop cotton?
Yes, I chop cotton a lot. I chop cotton, I cleared ground to, cut out bushes, trees, clear ground that didn't have anything on it but We cleared that out and so we could plant cotton in it.
How'd you clear the land? How'd you clear the land?
With a team. Sometimes they were horses, sometimes they were mules.
Now, what exactly were you doing with the team of mules or horses? How were you cleaning the land?
How was I what?
Yeah, how were you clearing the land? I mean, you had the team of mules, and what'd you do with the team of mules to clear the land?
Well, you didn't do it. You take the team, whatever your team was, whether it was horses or mules, you put them to the wagon. But you clear the land, and I mean, you chop. You'd have to chop all those bushes down with an axe, and then you take them and put them on there and haul them wherever you want them off. If you want them off the farm, just out to the edge of where you want to work, well, you put them out there and leave them.
Were you out there chopping with the axe?
Yeah.
How many acres could you clear in one day?
I don't have an idea how much we do in one day. We just worked all day. You know, you go to work in the morning, and you go back to the house and eat at noon and eat. Then you work till in the evening when you had to stop to go back to do work around the house.
How'd you get the stumps out of the ground? The tree stumps?
The stumps?
Yeah.
But those that they couldn't chop out, they just left them in there. You plow around them.
You plow around them?
When they go to plowing.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of plowing, how many acres did you plow in one day with the walking plow?
I don't have any idea. Because I never did plow.
You didn't?
No, later years I learned how to run. I used to, but I don't know how many acres. I just had something to do, you just do it.
Would you describe the process of chopping cotton? How do you do it?
Chopping cotton?
Yeah, how do you chop cotton?
Well, you take a hoe. You have your hoe, and depending on what it needs to be done to it, some not like that, like we were saying about the new that land we cleared up and planted cotton in there. That was what we call the new ground. And usually when you planted cotton in there, you wouldn't have anything much but bushes. You wouldn't. But you take the old ground where you'd been farming a long time. When you chopped in it, there'll be lots of grass in it. So you take your hoe and you chop according to how many space, how wide you leave your cotton about. Well, your hoe chop apart. Stalks, according to how wide a hoe sometimes. Some hoes are 6 inches, 8, 10, and you just chop there and you leave 2 or 3 stalks on one hill.
How long were your cotton rows?
How long?
Yeah.
Some of them, I don't know how long they were. Just according to what size patch or whatever, according to what kind of, if it's a big field. Some of them look like they was about a quarter of a mile long to me.
You remember how long it took you to chop that whole quarter of a mile row?
No. Sometimes because of how much was it, how bad it was. If it had lots of grass in it, you wouldn't get very far. Sometimes you wouldn't chop. Sometimes you wouldn't chop, but maybe two or 3 rows.
In one day?
Yeah, in the morning.
In the morning?
Yeah, it'd be about 6 rows a day, according to how long they were.
Now, how much cotton could you pick in one day?
How much I picked?
Yeah.
There was a cotton picker. Didn't pick very much. I think I picked about 160 pounds. Pretty good.
How many pounds could you pull?
I mean,
You ever pull bowls?
yeah, I pull bowls. I didn't do much better. A little better, not much.
Like when you went to bowling? Can you hear me?
And say, my,
An average day. You know, like what you did in the morning. Can you describe an average day when you had your hogs and stuff and you had to feed them, and that's what happened to Sister King's
every
case?
day on the farm.
Yeah, the day you.
Yeah, we just get up. You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, 4
And
o'clock.
you get up at 4 o'clock. We cook breakfast.
What'd you fix for breakfast?
Did you put the back on, Joe?
What would you fix for breakfast?
We usually eggs and bacon, home cured bacon. Sometimes be ham, whatever we wanted. We had the meat. We didn't go to the store and buy meat. We killed hogs in the fall, and they would last. You'd have them till time comes. Have some of it until time comes for to kill them next time.
Can you describe, can you share the experience with Joe about the day you were going to feed your hogs and it was so cold and your face froze? Can you share that experience with Joe?
That was when he asked me about my childhood, and
Yeah.
that wasn't childhood. That was in '57.
That's in 57.
No, '58.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That's in '58. See, I was 60 years old then.
how long did you live down by Longview? How long did you live in Texas?
Let's see, I lived in Texas until 1920.
Till 19.
We came to Oklahoma in 1920. 1919, so we said 20. It was December the 31st, 1919.
1919.
It was big snow on like we had here. It looked like this we have here when we came to Oklahoma.
Did you raise hogs in Texas?
Yeah, my father, they did. Yeah.
Did you help in the butchering in Texas?
I usually had to do cooking, and I didn't. My mother did that. I didn't have to. They took care of that. Three or four families would get together, and when they kill hogs, or they come kill hogs at one place, and then they go from that to another. But when they was at that one place, well, see, dinner had to be cooked for. Yeah, usually that's what if I wasn't when I was young, real young, I took care of the younger children while my mother cooked. And after I got where I had to cook, well, I was helping to cook. Sometimes then they got to where I had to do cooking. When they do things, when they kill hogs like that.
Did you help your mother make lard? Make soap?
I made lard and soap. I
What's
made
your
lard
recipe?
too.
What's your recipe for soap?
I don't have a recipe now.
How do you make
I
it?
tell you. I really, it's been so long since I made soap, I really couldn't tell you how I made soap. But we used to make all the soap we used.
Now, did you use store-bought lye or use an ash hopper to make lye?
I know when they used it, when they used ash hoppers and when they stopped and when they went to buying lye.
How long did it take to get the ash hopper full to make the lye? How many months of ashes you have to put in there?
Don't have an idea because it depends on what you were using, how much at that. Because when they were using the ash hoppers, they used, it's according to how many fires you burn. We had a fireplace and a cook stove, and you burn all the winter. You had to take the ashes out every day.
How big was the ash hopper?
Huh?
How big was the ash hopper?
It was about, I don't know, about as long as that chest over there.
What, about maybe 5-6 feet long?
And it's square.
And it was square.
Large at the top and small at the bottom.
Kind of V-shaped. How long did it take for the water to run through to make the lye?
All that I don't know how long it took. I just know the water. I could tell you the water. It rained on it, and it didn't. I mean, it pulled through that, and it goes through that. But now, how long would it take it? I don't know how long it take it. When it goes through, well, it was a lye. It caught it, had someone there to catch it at the bottom.
You ever render lard?
Yeah, lots of times.
Tell me, how do you render lard? From start to finish, what do you do?
You take your fat, take the knife, take knives, that's what we did with it. Take a knife and chop it up in about 1.5 inch cubes. And after you chop it up, and you get it all, get it all chopped before you do anything else with it. And you have, no matter how much you had or how many pounds you have, you get it all ready. And then we did it we had big black wash pots, outdoor pots. You build a fire around it. You'd have that up, and then you put a little water in there, and that water gets hot. That pot was hot, and the water, just a little water to keep it from sticking to the pot when you first put it in there. And then you put that fire on, and then let it cook. Keep that fire on and let it cook until it gets about, when it starts turning brown, you have to reduce your fire. You pull that fire away from that pot, because it keeps from cooking too fast, it'll burn. And then when you take it out, when it gets as brown as you want it, we call those cracklings. And meat has browned and it's crispy, and those are cracklings. You dip all that grease that's cooked out, you dip it, that's the lard, you dip it out and strain it into whatever you're going to put it into.
What do you strain it through?
What
do you strain the lard through?
Cloth.
Cloth?
Yeah.
And what would you store the lard in?
We call them lard cans. Usually that's what we put it in.
And how much lard would you render out at one time? How many gallons?
Sometimes the family, when we doing for the big family, well, sometimes it'll be, let's see, it was a 25-gallon pot, so you'll have about 15, from 15 to 20 gallons in it.
And how many hogs had you butchered to get that much lard?
All the time it'd be 4 or 5, but you wouldn't have, get more than that from all of them, but I've said, you asked how much I do at one time.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's just done one pot. Sometimes we have two pots. So that'll be using. I mean, that'll be three or four hogs usually when you get that much.
Do you have to stir that lard all the time it's rendering?
After, yes, all the time, because when you first put it on there, you have to stir it to keep it from sticking.
And how long does it take until you first put the lard in until it's rendered, until it's finished? How many hours?
All of that, I never timed it, so I can't. I just know what I had to do and get there and do it. And you don't, and it's something you're going to do. You don't have any need to time yourself. But you put it on, I guess about. If you're not going to do anything else, you're just going to stand or be around it all the time. Well, the question is, it'll take about 3 hours.
About 3 hours?
Yeah. And it depends, too, on how much fire you have. So you cook it fast to start with. But if you cook it slow, if you cook it fast, most times you'd overcook it and it'd be brown. If you want it to be white, well, take your time. You cook it slow. The slower you cook it, the whiter it'd be.
Any other chores you do on the farm besides rendering lard and cooking and doing dishes and laundry?
Raise chicken, hogs.
How many hogs?
Milk cows.
How many hogs do you raise at one time?
I don't know. That depends. Because at times, sometimes according to what you're raising them for, I mean, what you just for, most times you have one or two brood sows, and then you have about 3 or 4 younger ones you raise and keep them and raise them for your meat for the year. But you call the size family. I have worked with about 20 at one time.
How many cows did you have?
Sometimes milk 5 or 6 cows. Sometimes milk that many.
Now, on your average day, what's the first chore you did when you got up?
Well, most times to get out there and feed whatever that is out there. Hogs, dogs, cows.
Did you do that before or after breakfast?
Before.
Then after breakfast, what'd you do?
Yeah. Now, what time now?
Now we're still in Texas.
Oh, we're still in Texas. Well, that's all that's growing up. Yeah, we do all of that. We do all growing up. Well, we get out there. You get up. First thing you do, you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, before day, and you get breakfast and wash up the dishes. And when it gets, that'll be before daylight. You have your breakfast already, and when daylight comes, then you part of the work. You get out there and feed the hogs and horses and cows. Get all that done. When daylight comes, then you go to the field to work. That's what you do. That's the first thing you do in the morning. That's the way it's done. You get your breakfast first, but it'd be 4 o'clock when you got up.
Where'd you start school?
So where did I start
Yes,
school?
ma'am.
I tell where we lived. In the community where we live. It was about, I had to walk about a mile.
What was the name of the school?
It was on the same place where we live. I mean, it's on the farm.
Remember the name of the school?
I can't think of the name of the school. Let's see.
Now, you say your father was a school teacher?
Yeah, he's a farmer and a school teacher too.
And was he your teacher in that school?
No, he always taught somewhere else.
What was
I
your
went to
teacher's
school
name?
at home. He would always go. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Now, was it an all-black school?
Yes, it's all black.
I guess in those days.
One teacher taught all the children.
How did one teacher handle all the grades in one room?
They didn't seem to have any problems. They just, you didn't go any further than the 6th grade.
But how would she teach the older students and the younger students at the same time? How would she do that?
When they didn't teach them all, they'd have, see, each one had his class. I mean, have their own classes. And when I was going to school, and when I taught too, you have you take if you teaching, if you had sometime you'd have the older students. While you doing the older students, you have the others busy studying their work. And then when you finish with that, then you get another one, get another class.
Now, where did you have that one class you were teaching? You have a certain place that you took the class in the room?
No, you all sat together.
Okay, so each class sat together in the room.
No, all the children just sitting in the room. They had seats, and you didn't have a certain place to sit.
Now,
You sit wherever you wanted to sit.
I heard that some of the teachers had a recitation bench.
Had a what?
A recitation bench at the front of the class. I've heard of that before. That's where she'd bring one class at a time up to the front for the lesson.
Well, that's what we did. That's what we did when I was growing up. Well, it did that when I was teaching too.
So you had a recitation bench then at the front.
Yeah. You come and like you doing. See that everybody be sitting back in there, and when you call that grade, they come on up front. Okay. That's spelling, and if you had spelling, they would all stand spell. And reading, you sit on the front seat. They had benches, long benches. Wooden benches, and you sit on that front, the class sit on the front seats.
How did you celebrate your early Christmases?
Celebrate what?
Your Christmas time in your childhood? How did you celebrate Christmas?
We have a Christmas tree. In the church. We didn't have one at home. At home, we didn't. You hang up your stockings, socks, use a box, whatever. Put it out for Santa Claus to put something in it.
Santa Claus always come and visit you?
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you found out there wasn't Santa Claus?
Well, when I found out, when I was told it wasn't Santa Claus, it was some of the other children. I had some cousins told me about it. And actually, I believed them because they told me.
What was your reaction?
Well, I hardly know how I reacted to it. I believed it, but I don't remember. Oh, I know I didn't. I kept on at home. My father and they still played Santa Claus, but they knew I knew when they found out that I knew about it. So they told me one night they played Santa Claus. I was looking at them. They told me that, and I didn't tell when I learned about it. I didn't tell the rest of them about it. So, and I didn't say anything at all about it. Didn't even tell my mother and father about it, that somebody had said it. So they kept. They came by and fished an orange or apple or something in my bed. And then next morning he told me that I had gotten too large, that I knew that there was Santa Claus. So. But anyway, that's all was ever said about it. Well, they knew that I knew, but I hadn't said anything. Since I hadn't said anything, well, they noticed I didn't put anything out there. I learned about it. And so.
What kind of toys would you get for Christmas?
Well, you get one apple, one orange. You get a French harp. You know what a French harp is? You ever see a French harp?
French
A little harp, long, about that long, and have it would have you blow into it and make your own music.
Okay.
That's all you. Yeah. Maybe you get a little horn or something. Sometime occasionally get a doll. If I had got a doll this Christmas, next Christmas I wouldn't get one. So we can get candy. Some stick peppermint candy, sticks of peppermint candy. About a handful of English walnuts and can't call those names, Brazil nuts. Sometimes it have a few of the other nuts in there. We had a big Christmas.
Was that the biggest holiday of the year, Christmas?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Now, what about Thanksgiving?
They always celebrated Thanksgiving by having a big dinner, killing turkey.
Did you raise your turkey?
Yeah, we raised the turkey. We raised your own turkeys.
What about 4th of July?
Oh, we go on a picnic, but to us it didn't mean anything. 19th of June, what we celebrated in Texas.
Tell me about Juneteenth.
Huh?
How'd you celebrate Juneteenth?
That's what we did. We had a neighborhood picnic, and they would have ball game, big ball game, and you had stands where they sell pop and lemonade, ice cream. They enjoyed that.
Was there a strong KKK around Longview?
Well, I wouldn't know.
Ever come in contact with it at all?
I didn't know. Cause no, I wouldn't know.
What did you do during World War I?
What was what?
World War I. You know, some of the women knitted socks and sweaters for the soldiers. Did you do any work for the war effort?
No, I didn't. I don't remember my mother and them doing anything.
And why did the family move to Oklahoma?
Well, let's see. They had a race right down there, and what was they had? That's why they moved.
Was that in Longview?
Yeah.
What caused that riot?
Well, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can piece that together. I mean, how to say it, because what caused it? It was a man that sold Chicago Defender newspaper. He had printed he was a news, he had there was a news article came out in there, and he's the one that sent the article to Chicago from the print. And when they read that article, it was something that had happened that the white people didn't want the people to know about. And it came out in that paper, and they found him. And they tried to buy all the papers up, and they wouldn't. They didn't get them. They had already been distributed. So they tried to get him and kill him, and they couldn't. But he got away.
What was the incident? What was the article about?
Huh?
What was the article about?
About a white girl and the black boy. And they didn't want it published. And so they told her they didn't want to, and this boy was beat up, and we didn't have but one black doctor, and all of the doctors were white, and they told him not to treat the boy, but he treated him anyway. So that night they tried to kill him. They burned his office down and killed his father-in-law. Several people got killed when that happened.
How long did the riot last?
Just that night.
Just that night?
Just that night.
Did they burned the doctor out and killed his father-in-law, and what else did they do?
They had him. Well, you said they had the doctor and the man that was sold in the newspaper. And they belonged to a club. And they got hold to the name of those people who was on that club. And they was trying to get to kill all of them. So that's why they had to leave. My father was one of them. They belonged, it was, forgotten the name of the lodge they belonged to.
What kind of lodge was it? What kind of group?
Black or white, you mean?
Yeah, that your father belonged to? What kind
Black.
What kind of club was it? Was it kind of like the Knights of Columbus or the Masons, or?
Yeah, they was a Mason. He was a Mason. That doctor and the man that sold that paper too.
How long did your family move during the riot or after the riot?
After the riot, we moved. That was in the summer. I don't remember what month, but we didn't move until December. After December.
How did you move to Oklahoma? How did you travel?
Came on train.
On the train? Now, did your father own the land in Texas?
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did he sell the land when he moved?
No, he didn't sell it when he moved. He didn't sell. He sold some of it before he moved. He didn't sell. Yeah, he sold most of it. He sold all but the homestead.
Did you want to move from Texas?
Did I?
Did you want to leave Texas?
Not at that time. I was in school, in boarding school.
Oh, where?
Bishop College in Marshall, Texas.
Tell me about Bishop College.
Well, what can I tell you about Bishop?
Was it all girls? Was it co-ed?
It was a Baptist school.
Was it for boys and girls?
Mission,
Was it boys and girls?
boys and girls.
Would you describe the dormitory?
The president was white.
Was it an all-black school?
Yeah. All except the president was white and some of the teachers were white. Teachers were white and black.
Would you describe the dormitory you lived in?
It had I believe about 4 stories building.
How many girls to a room? How many girls to a room in the dormitory?
2.
2? And how big was the room?
Just, I don't know the size. It's all a bit large enough for 2 small beds and a dresser, you call it, and your trunk.
Why did you go to the boarding school?
Because we didn't have the school. The rural school just went to the 6th grade, through 6th grade. You had to go. So I got the opportunity of going to Bishop College. I was in the 8th then. I finished 7th and 8th at Bishop.
How much did it cost to go to Bishop?
I remember that now.
How many students were at Bishop?
I mean, what?
How many students were at Bishop altogether?
I don't know.
And would you tell us your average day at Bishop? You know, what chores you had to do there? what classes you had?
Every day, so we get up and eat breakfast, and I forgot what time I got over to get up. It's there. These classes start at 7 o'clock. And you had dinner at noon at 12. And then you go back at 1. And I'm not sure about when the classes ended.
Did you have a uniform you had to wear?
No. You just wear your regular clothes in there.
Did you have any chores you had to do there at school?
No, not there. I didn't. Some had work, chores to do, but I didn't.
And you moved in December of 1919.
That's when we left Texas.
And where'd you move to?
Well, it was east of Bowling.
Why did the family move to Bowling?
Because there was some other friends. My father had a friend that lived there. He told him about it. He had moved to Oklahoma a long time ago. And that's why he chose to come to Bowling.
And did you settle in the town itself?
Yeah, what?
Did you settle in the town of Bowling, or did you move to a farm?
No, on the farm. He never lived in. He always went to the farm, wherever he was. But he went to the farm. He taught school out there.
Where did he teach at Bowling?
That was Ebenezer. He taught at Ebenezer school out there.
And were all the teachers in the, what was that?
He was the only one there.
The only one in school?
At Ebenezer. And my sisters and brothers, they went to school at Ixell. They had 4 or 5 teachers there. But see, they were about 4 miles from home.
Did you?
I didn't go to school no more till I went back. I went to school again. It was in, let me see, it was in 1920. I didn't go to school anymore till 23. Because 22, I stayed there and worked on the farm. In 22, I worked at a hospital, tuberculosis hospital.
What did you do there?
Bowling.
I mean, what were your duties in the hospital?
Wait on the patient.
Were those patients, were they contagious in those tuberculosis hospitals?
I said it was. I don't know. We had to take some kind of test before we could work there.
Did you do anything to prevent from getting tuberculosis?
Yeah, they gave us inoculation when we went to work there.
How did the farm life differ between Texas and Bowling? What was the difference?
We didn't have only thing. Well, it differed because we didn't have as much work to do. Didn't have as much farm as we had. But we just had one farm there, and because in Texas they had 5 or 6. Had sharecroppers. Just had one just we worked after carrying the boy.
How big was the town of Bowley when you first moved there?
I don't remember what the population was. It was small.
What did the town look like?
Just like just an ordinary small town. It had two banks. Let's see, two banks, I believe, when we came there. And I had several stores.
Were the streets paved?
You know, they weren't paved.
What was it like when it rained in town? What were the streets like?
Well, they were black tops. The main street was blacktop.
Or the main street was paved?
Well, it was blacktop, I call it. Gravel first, and then they grabbed blacktop. Finally, blacktop. That I don't remember when we came there whether it was blacktop or not. It was gravel then.
Was Bowley one of the towns that Mr. McCabe started? E.P. McCabe?
That Bowley, one of the towns, what?
Yeah, that Mr. McCabe started. E.P. McCabe. He tried to get people to move here back in the 1880s.
No, man.
So he's the one that started Langston University, and he wanted to make this an all-black state at one time, and he was getting people to move here.
I really don't know.
Who were some of the prominent people in Bowley in the early days that you remember?
Spears.
And who was
Turner. J.G. Turner was a banker. He got killed when Pretty Boy Floyd robbed the town.
He did?
Robbed a bank.
Pretty Boy Floyd killed him?
Mm-hmm.
What year was that?
I don't remember what year.
Who was Mr. Spears?
I don't know. That's some of the old. I mean, I don't know. You don't even know his Bowley Spears is there now. But I don't remember his father's name. He's been dead a long time.
What did Mr. Spears do? What did he do?
He was a farmer.
Oh, a farmer?
And I think they had two gins there, but the one gin when we came here, but I know there was one still there when we came. I think they had two, but anyway, S.J. King ran one. He was an old timer.
You mentioned a little while ago that you got your face frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. What happened?
In 1958, we had a big snow and ice like we had back here last few days. In March. And we had a bunch of cattle. And we lived on the south side of Highway 62. And the farm was a fourth of a mile north, on the north side of 62. And my husband had his leg broke, and he couldn't do anything, and I had to see after the stock, and I would have to go. I did go every morning and every evening over there, and when I went, oh, it was so cold. I thought I was wrapped up good, but my face froze on this left side, and the doctor came out there, coming out there to see him, and he checked it, and he said that that's what had happened. It got too cold, it froze. But he said that in 2 weeks, why, all those knots should go off. And if they didn't go off, why, we would have to do something about it. Well, all of them went off with that one. And it wasn't that large, but it kept growing. So that one's still there. That's why it is there. Because all of them left with that one. It was the whole side of my face.
How did the Depression of the 1930s affect you and your family?
Yeah. I have to think about 1930. That was a different life. 28, turned 30. Well, it did really. I don't know if I can describe. I mean, to say how it affected me, because
Did times become harder?
yeah, I guess they were harder, but it seemed like, I had already gotten used to it, and it didn't. It really wasn't bothering me. In 1930.
Did you raise all your own food then?
Huh?
Were you still on the farm at that time?
I was still on the farm, but it was on a different farm and a different family setup. Just two of us. And we didn't have any. Didn't own a farm or anything then. Well, we renting a farm. We didn't have anything but chickens, and it wasn't raising anything but chickens. Wasn't raising any cows and things then.
So you raised most of your own food then through the Depression?
Yeah, we always had a garden. We always raised our own food.
Did you cure your own hams?
Did I?
Did you cure your own hams?
Yeah.
How do you cure a ham?
Well, you just salt them. You just salt them down, put them in plain salt. But finally got to where they would, finally got to using smoked salt. And then you use, the last ones I cured was what they call sugar cured ham. It was salt, it has, you buy it, it's already mixed up. And you put that salt on them, you let them stay in there a certain length of time, then you turn it over, and they cure. And then it gets the flavor of that smoke, gives it that smoke flavor, and it has a sugar taste to it too.
How did you preserve beef?
You kill them, and they dress it, take it, hang it up in the barn somewhere.
And how long would that beef last? How long would the meat be good?
Well, I don't remember any of it spoiling. You just put it there. You put it there and eat off of it. Meat didn't those days didn't meat didn't, this is a long time ago now, but meat didn't. You didn't have we didn't even have refrigerators or anything. You just kill that beef, skin it, hang it up in the barn, and eat off of it. Sometime if you it'll be enough of it. Stay there, it will drying out.
What time of year would you butcher the beef?
That would be you butcher beef anytime. But mostly in the summertime when you butcher beef, and it is in the fall when you put it up, hang it up, and let it dry. I mean, you cut off of it like that. In the summertime, it wouldn't let it last that long because you would take it and when one person killed a beef and you divide it out among your neighbors, and then when that was gone, another neighbor killed a beef. That's the way we did it. But when it got to after the 30s, when people killed beef, then it had gotten to the place where people were selling everything. So you would they kill the beef and sell most of it. Keep part of it for yourself. Then it got to where you had if you had ice, where you keep beef, keep fresh meat longer.
Was ice hard to come by in those years?
Yeah.
Was ice hard to get in those years?
No. When they started selling ice, they had plenty of ice. They used to make blocks of ice. I remember you give 15 cents for a block of ice. 100 pounds of ice. I don't know, a long time ago. I remember when they didn't have ice. We didn't. On Saturday evening, this is in Texas though. This Saturday evening they go to town and they buy beef. They didn't kill beef then. I don't remember them killing it. They go to town, they buy them some beef for Sunday, and they come back and if they had ice, they bring some ice, and they take it and put that ice. They save ice to buy that ice to make ice cream. They take their meat, they put the meat in the house, and they keep it till Sunday. Have it for Sunday, and in their ice, they're gonna make ice cream. They dig a hole in the ground and put the ice in there, and Sunday morning they take it up, make ice cream out of it.
How long would that ice last in the hole?
Huh?
How long would the ice last in the hole?
Well, it didn't. It'll be there when they get ready to use it that next day. They didn't let it. That's what they bought it for. See, for Sunday. Bought it Saturday for Sunday, and they bring it home and put it in the ground, and when you take it out the next day to make the ice cream, it was there.
Did many people around Bowling move to California in the 1930s, and when all the Okies went to California?
I really don't know, because see, that's the 19. I don't know. I don't remember missing that many. Some might have gone. Some of the younger people might have gone. The older people didn't go nowhere.
What about World War II? 1941 through 1945. Did you do any work then for the war effort?
I never did anything with her.
Where'd you meet your husband?
At Bowling.
And what was his name?
Robert H. King.
Robert King.
Yeah.
And when did you get married?
When?
Yes, ma'am.
27.
1927.
How long were you married to your husband?
He died in, well, it was 78 or 79. You remember, Jean?
79, I think.
79, I believe. I was at the assembly. That's it's almost 48 years.
I knew it was
How long did you live in Bowling?
Well, we came there in 19. See, it's the vicinity. See, I never did live in. Bowling's always was the post office. From 1920, we left out from 1920 to 74. I came up here in 74.
Why'd you move up here?
So I could be a Jehovah's Witness. Then all but 2 years. 2 years we was at Guthrie.
In Guthrie?
Yeah.
Oh, you were in Guthrie 2 years?
Huh?
You were in Guthrie 2 years?
Guthrie, yeah. 27, 20, 27, 28, 28, and 29.
Why'd you move to Guthrie?
Well, that's the way he wanted to go.
What kind of work did your husband do?
He was a farmer.
Farmer? Did you farm in Guthrie?
Yeah.
Do you have any?
I have a question that's kind of out of the vein that you're in. It was concerning games that the children played when she was little. What kind of games did you play when you were a little girl?
Oh, that's been so long. I can't even. Some of the same ones that I can't even call the names of the games.
They have jacks,
Huh?
jacks, pickup sticks.
Oh yeah, play those. Yeah, I can pick up stick, but I mean, or with I can't think of the name of the game to play with the other children, you know. I mean,
Hopscotch.
if that's what it was, it wasn't called that then. Oh.
Dodgeball.
Well, one of the games that I can't think of.
You have a paddle with a little ball on it?
Huh?
Do you have the game with the paddle with the
We
little ball?
had that too. Had the game that you play with. I see you playing it now sometimes. The children is when you go, you march around in a circle, and I like these, but I can't think of the name of it.
Tetherball?
game you go around, you hold hands and you go around the circle and one be in the center.
Like blind man's eye.
Blind man's bug.
Not ring around the rose.
Tisket or tasket?
I can't think of the name of it now. That's well, all of those that you call, but those, I can't think of the other.
What did most of the black people do for recreation, like on the weekend? What did they like to do?
Go to ball game.
They have square
Yeah.
dances, or
Uh,
did they have square dances, or?
yeah, they had square dances.
Did the people around Bowley celebrate Juneteenth like you did in Texas?
Round bowling?
Yeah.
No.
No, is Juneteenth just celebrated in Texas?
That's all that's all I know. Each state had a different date.
I
That's
think
what.
that's a state holiday in Texas.
See that 19th of June 19th was that's the date where the slaves was supposed to have been free.
Now, was that the day that they signed it, or that the day they heard about it?
It'd have to be the day they heard about it.
Okay.
Cause it's traditional. That's what they. I think they still. Last time I talked with my cousin,
Yeah, it's a
they
official
still doing
holiday.
it. Man.
Yeah, all the state offices closed everything in Texas on June 19th. What about Halloween?
Say, what did do Halloween?
Yeah. When you were a little girl in Texas.
There were people. I mean, some celebrated Halloween by going around and calling themselves having fun. They used to go around and see. I wasn't connected with any. I didn't do things like that. I stayed at home. They would they'd get something and put across your door, fasten you in the house, drag things, move things out of place around the way you had them, and they would take unscrew the tap on the buggy wheel or wagon wheel, things like that. Let's have fun. Call themselves having fun. But we're not in there because we didn't do those things.
What kind of mischief did you get into?
Well, we didn't get into it. Had to stay at home. Get a lot. I don't remember getting into it.
Do you have any?
Was your father a disciplinarian?
Yeah. I was trying to think of something. I don't remember anything.
Did he teach you all the Bible? Did you have like family Bible classes, or?
No, we go to. You have prayer. Yeah, you know, they have prayer at night. Yeah, he was. We go to church, go to Sunday school.
Did you get to go to town to shop like once a month, or?
We didn't go shop at all. No, we didn't go. We go on Saturdays sometime. You know, when they go, my mother went shopping. She shopped for us. But most times, she just tell him what to bring. He bring us. He did the shopping. But every once in a while, she would go, and we'd go. They did the shopping. You didn't shop. Whatever they bought, that's what you got.
On the farm in Texas, how many wagons did you have?
In Texas. I don't know, sometimes they have, I don't know what they're doing. Sometimes he used to, I have seen many 7 or 8, because they had, at one time they used, I know when they had oxen, he had 4 or 5 ox wagons, with the ox pull wagon.
What is the difference between a wagon a horse and mule would pull and a wagon an oxen would pull?
Well, the one that the oxen pulled was it is heavier built, and it's all wood, and that because the oxen had to be, they were yoked together with wooden yokes, and they used them to haul lumber.
Now, is the oxen wagon, is it bigger than a horse or a mule wagon?
Lots bigger, yeah. Lots bigger, and it was longer, made longer. It's nearly twice as long as an ordinary wagon.
How many head of oxen would be hitched to it? How many head of oxen would be hitched to the ox wagon?
6.
6.
To 1. One wagon would have 6.
Remember what brand of wagons you had on the farm?
No, not now.
And do you remember what maintenance your father did to keep the wagons in working condition?
Yeah, you'd have to keep axle grease on the wheels.
How you grease the axles?
How you grease them?
Yeah.
They had on the end of the axle, you have a cap. You unscrew that cap, and then you could slide the wheel almost off, just let it be on there enough to hold the wagon up. And you put that axle grease on the axle, and then you slide it back on there and tighten it, tap back up.
You have a certain wrench that you would loosen and tighten that?
There's a wrench that fit around that cap.
Mm-hmm.
And you just put it on there and then turn it back till you got it loose.
Where'd you keep that wrench?
So where did you keep it?
Yeah.
Well, they usually have a toolbox or a shelf or somewhere they keep them. Where you keep all the tools.
What are the maintenance?
Because you wouldn't take it with you, because you see to it that your wagon is greased when you're at home.
Mm-hmm. What other maintenance did he do in the wagon besides greasy axles?
Well, they had a problem with the keeping the wheels. In the summertime, the wheels would get that band go around the wheels.
Yeah, the tire.
Yeah, they didn't call it tire. I think what they called it, but I don't. But it was the band that goes around the wheel. They have to keep it tight on there.
Had to keep it tight.
Sometimes they would. Sometimes they'd have to put them in water, run them through water.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to getting old, and they were new, they didn't. If they were kept dry, you didn't have that problem. But if you just had them out, they didn't have a wagon shed, well, they'd dry out. Sometimes that band get loose on there.
Who was a blacksmith in your area down in Texas?
I don't remember that.
Was there a blacksmith down there?
Yeah, they always had blacksmiths. We had a, when we moved to Bowley, there was one there, but I don't know what his name was now. Right. Yeah, they always had a blacksmith. He's the one that kept keep things going.
Would you tell us some of your favorite childhood memories?
Where do I have one? Can't even think of one.
What kind of house did you live in Texas?
Well, it is all made of all boards. I mean, no brick.
In a frame house?
All a frame house. Yeah.
What about in Bowley? On the farm near Bowley?
Same thing.
A frame house again?
Frame house.
What did most of the people do for a living in Bowling?
Farm.
Most of them were farmers?
They did. Now most of them now they don't now because the ones that farm got too old to farm are gone, and the ones that it's a few, but the majority of them are coming to Oklahoma City are going tough to live, make a living.
Did your mom teach you the basic things like cooking and canning and sewing?
All of those things. I've been cutting and sewing by myself since I was 11 years old. Yeah, we made all our clothing.
What kind of sewing machine did you have?
Singer. Got the Singer and a white. Still have the Singer. Used to have a white.
Was it a treadle machine?
Yeah.
That's mine.
It's down the hole.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, Miss King, I think we have a good interview. Do you have any more questions? Okay, we've talked for between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Okay. Miss King, I want to thank you.
You're welcome. If I've been any help. Just forgot so much.
And then I'll let you guys do your thing.
Okay, this is February 23rd, 1987. This is Joe Todd, and an interview with Mr. Bill Juergens in Norman, Oklahoma. Mr. Juergens, where were you born?
Beaver.
Beaver?
Beaver, yeah.
Okay.
Beaver Hammer, Rose River, 1893. 22nd January.
What day?
22nd.
22nd of January.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was your father?
One of Juergens. He was, Werner Juergens.
What was his first name?
Werner.
Werner?
Yeah.
Werner Juergens. And who was your mother?
Annie. Harvey.
What was the last name?
Hartley.
Hadley?
H-A-R-T-L-I-N-D.
Okay, Hardy. Where were your parents from?
Well, my father was from Germany, and my mother was from Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And where was your father from, you say?
Germany.
Germany. What kind of work did your father do?
He was a technician.
A technician?
Yeah. Bookkeeper.
With who?
Bookkeeper.
He was a bookkeeper.
He was an expert accountant.
He was an accountant. Who did he work for?
He was for some construction company, I don't know.
Okay. How long did you live in Nova Scotia?
Oh, I was born there and we moved to 2 years, 3 years.
And why did the family move to the United States?
Yeah.
Why did you move here?
Why did I move here?
Yeah.
My father he was expert accountant.
And who did he work for in this country?
You got me. I know what it is.
And where did you move to?
I think we moved to, we lived in Halifax for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad, I was a big, Masterfield.
Well,
Masterfield. He was Masterfield many years.
when did you move to the United States? What year?
Halifax.
No, what year did you move to the United States? Do you remember what year?
I say, it must have been 1893. It's about 1892.
1892?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you join the Army?
In the 1800s, the late 1800s.
Did you go to France?
Huh?
Did you go to France during the war?
Yeah, well, yeah, the Navy.
In the Navy?
Yeah.
What'd you do in the Navy?
You kind of do.
Hmm?
What did I do?
Yeah?
I was a sailor. Marine.
You were a Marine.
Yeah.
What were your duties on ship?
Oh, watch the
Hmm? Were you ever involved in any combat on the ship?
Yes, my God. I was exposed too much. And my wife was yes, I wouldn't know my ship was.
Did you land in France? Did you land in France during the war?
Oh, yes.
Where did you land?
USS Buffalo?
USS Buffalo?
Yeah, first ship.
What'd you do on that ship?
Watch
Watch duty?
yeah.
How long were you on the Buffalo?
Oh, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe.
Were you ever in any battles in France? Were you ever in any of the big battles during the war on land, like the Meuse-Argonne?
No.
No? What were you trained to do as a Marine?
Watch duty.
Do you remember what you did on Armistice Day, the day the war ended?
USS San Diego.
You on the USS San Diego? Is that were you on the San Diego when the war ended?
Yeah.
Was there a big celebration on board the ship?
Yes.
What'd you do?
Watch duty. Watch duty.
How long were you on board the San Diego?
Oh, was 7 weeks ago. No, I did San Diego. Oh, I did about 8 months.
Where did you start to school?
Okay.
Where did you start to school?
Where is it?
What was the name of the school?
Okay. State Admiral, I think.
I'm sorry?
State Admiral.
St. Elmo?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the trip to France on the boat? Did anything happen in particular?
Oh. Yes.
How long were you in the Navy?
I say 4 years.
4 years? When did you get your discharge? What year?
1943.
What kind of work did you do after the Navy?
General service to a ship.
I'm sorry?
General service. General watch to a ship.
Well, anything else about the Navy you want to talk about?
Well, I was pretty red. I was made myself. I was discharged. I had duty aboard the USS San Diego, USS Curie, and Navy yards.
Well, I want to thank you for the interview. I want to thank you for the interview and the information. Today is February 23rd, 1987. This is Joe Todd, and interview at Mr. Clifford Clinton Meyer, and you go by Dutch, in Norman, Oklahoma.
Norman, Oklahoma.
Mr. Meyer, where were you born?
I beg your pardon?
Where were you born?
I was born in Bucks, B-U-C-K, capital Grove, Kansas.
Kansas. When's your birthday?
May the 23rd, 1894.
1894.
May the 23rd is my birthday.
Who was your father?
Will H. Meyer.
Will H. Meyer. And your mother?
My mother passed away when I was born. And my grandmother took me.
Was this your father's mother or?
My father's mother.
Okay.
In Holton, 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 Kansas.
What was your mother's name? Do you?
My mother?
Yeah.
Well, Boy, you got me there.
Okay.
It's been so long since
What was your grandmother's name?
Elizabeth. Oh, no, or Lisetta. Lissetta.
What was that again? I'm sorry.
Lisetta. Lissetta. Lisetta.
Okay.
She was from Wareheim, Germany. And when I received my orders to go overseas, her son, my uncle, brought her from Norman over to Little Rock, Arkansas to tell me goodbye, and she told me about her kinfolks that remained over in Cross Pond.
Where was your father from?
Dad was reared in Wisconsin. He was born in Wisconsin. Moved from there to to Holton, Holton, which is 30 miles north of Topeka, Kansas.
When did the family move to Oklahoma?
When?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see. He came down here and went into the furniture and undertaking business.
In Norman?
In Norman. And it was known at that time as the Big Chair, and they had a great big telephone post out in front of the business and had a chair, a big chair up on top of that, and that was the name of the business, the Big Chair.
Where was it located?
Norman.
I mean, what was the address?
The what?
Do you remember the address of the store?
Oh, Lord, I'll forget the number, but it was in the 100 block of downtown business in those days.
On Main Street?
Yes.
Why did your father move to Norman?
Well, you know, in those days they had a group of men that had in Texas 1,000 acres were just like 10 acres at this day and time. And they got a hold of my grandfather and told him about the land in Texas that could be just about the same as homesteaded, just so you'd go down and develop this land. So Dad said to my granddad, his father, that he thought that was a pretty good deal, which it was. So they came down through Norman and they took on 2 Norman residents and took them on down to Texas to homestead some of this land down there. So that was the way we were introduced to that land down there.
What part of Texas?
Beeville is on the way to Corpus Christi.
How did you travel to Texas?
In those days and times, we was lucky. No, they had coaches that they put on the passenger train, extra. And when Dad found out about the business could be here in Norman, furniture undertaking both. So Granddad had some beautiful dapple gray horses. And he said that he would give my father, his son, 4 horses so it could be used here in Norman to pull a hearse, 2 horses at a time. So they loaded them in a car with a lot of other things that they wanted to bring to Oklahoma. So that was the way it was started, the big chair, furniture and undertaking here in Norman.
What year did the family move to Oklahoma?
What year what?
What year did you move to Oklahoma? What year?
Well, I wasn't quite old enough to go to a public school. The Catholic priest was a very good friend of my father due to the undertaking business. All he would have to do is to call Dad and tell him circumstances, and he would send a man out to pick up the corpse. So that was the way that we...
What was the priest's name?
The what?
Do you remember the name of that priest? Do you remember his name? The name of the Catholic priest?
Metter. Father Metter.
Father Metter.
Metter.
Did you go to the Catholic church in Norman?
That was the Catholic church in Norman.
Is that where you...
And I wasn't old enough to go to public school here in Norman, so the Catholic priest said, well, we'll arrange that. He can come and go to our school, and then when he passes, that they'll accept him and take him into the public school.
Do you remember the Catholic school? Tell me about going to school there.
How?
Tell me about going to school at the Catholic school.
Well, it was far removed from the public school, because they, the priest, they say so, and you had to do what he asked you to do. So there was no hard feelings or anything, and Naturally, Dad wanted the undertaking business from the Catholic people, so that tied things in pretty good.
How long did you attend the Catholic school?
Till I was just old enough to go to a public school without any trouble.
And how old were you?
I was just 7 years old.
Okay. So you moved here about 1900?
Yes.
What was the name of the Catholic school?
That was all. They had no, it was just a Catholic school.
And what was the name of the Catholic church?
Catholic.
Would you describe the hearse that was pulled by the horses?
At a funeral?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, what did the hearse look like?
Well, in those days it was, they did have rubber tires, wheels, and the rubber on the wheel was about something about like that all the way around. And people here thought that was something wonderful, because Dad had the first one that was here. So that helped along. Father Metter was the father of the Catholic Church, and he was a mighty good friend of Dad and the family, our family. So that way we got along with the Catholics.
What did your father get the coffins for the funerals?
What was what?
Where did your father get the coffins for the funerals? Or the caskets? Where did he get them?
Where did he get it?
Yes, sir.
Here in Norman.
Who made the caskets?
The Catholics.
Oh, okay.
And the Catholic priest had a lot of friends. And the way it started, the Catholic priest came to Dad and asked if he would object if they had a funeral, if they would toll the bell. And Dad said no. They wanted to toll the bell all during the funeral.
Now, where was the bell? What bell was this?
It here in Norman.
I mean, was it the bell on the church, or?
Oh yes, it was up in the tower of the church.
Where was the church located?
It's over where it is now, only it has been remodeled and... But Father Metter, M-E-T-T-E-R, was the Catholic priest.
Did you ever meet Bishop Meerschaert?
Meet what?
Did you ever meet Bishop Meerschaert, the Catholic bishop in Oklahoma?
If I did, I was too young in a way to be impressed very much.
Did you help your father in the furniture store?
Yes, as much as I could.
What did you do in the store?
Me?
Yes.
Well, in those days, we had high chairs. We put some hooks down from the ceiling, fastened them with bolts, screws about that big up there. And there's certain sections in the store where were children's high chair, and then there was for elderly people. And we had a large pole that was really came in carpets, rugs, and would roll around those and stand them up or put them on racks. And we used those and just different things to draw attention to the people.
Was the undertaking business in the same building
Yes.
as the big chair?
Yes, in fact, I'm trying to think of the man's name that owned the building. My grandfather was, he wasn't a rich man, but he was past the average. And he gambled on stock. He wanted thoroughbred bulls, and he had stallions to anybody that had a mare that was in heat, they called them. Well, they would bring them into Granddad and had a place there where he could put them with the stallion and breed them, is what they called it.
Did your grandfather race horses?
A ranch?
Did they have horse races here at that time?
Yes, within about 6 blocks of our house in Holton, Holton, Kansas, they had racetracks. Then, when the circus or things like that came to town, they rented that space down there, and that was paid to of enjoyment. Well, it was making money too, you see. So Granddad he was thinking all the time and trying to teach his son and his grandson the same thing.
What was your grandfather's name?
Henry F.
Henry F. Meyer?
Yeah, and my dad was William Meyer.
Did they have horse races here in Norman?
No,
No?
never did.
Would you tell me again where your father got the caskets for the funerals?
Got what?
Got the caskets for the funerals? Who made the caskets and the coffins?
Oh, they were, at first, they got them in books, a catalog, like they do different things in furniture and that, and they were given to my dad, and he would order, and we had to keep a certain number on hand, and we had them there on Main Street.
Which catalog did you order them from?
Pardon?
Which catalog did you order them from? Was it like Sears or?
Boy, no, it was a regular casket company, because they made anything from a casket that big for a baby up to the grown people.
Yeah.
And we had to keep a certain number of them on display where we embalmed the people. A person died, we'd send the hack out, pick them up and bring them in and embalm them.
How did you embalm the bodies at that time?
How?
Yeah.
First you drain the blood out of them and insert this liquid into there, and it won't decay like blood would.
What type of liquid was it?
It was just, they called it embalming fluid.
And what did you do with the blood you drained out? Where did it go?
The what?
What did you do with the blood you drained out?
Well, they put this fluid in the system.
But what did you do with the blood?
Throw it away.
Just threw it away. Okay. What were your other duties around the funeral home and the furniture store? What did you do?
I worked in a confectionery store. Before school in the morning, I'd go down and sleep out. And it was on Main Street. And it was really the nicest we called it a candy kitchen. You served ice cream and you could get sandwiches there. So that was a little bit rough on me, but I got to a point that I enjoyed it. And went to school because I was going to a Catholic school until I was 6 years of age. So
What were your duties in the confectionery store?
in the in which store?
The confectionery store.
Well, Dad wasn't very strict about having me work around. He run me on errands and helped out. But, I don't know.
Could you give me a description of Main Street in Norman about 1900 when you started the school?
Well, Father Metter was the head of the Catholic Church. And then he had a man that had been with him for quite a few years to help out around the church, to see that it was taken care of and cleanliness. And then in certain places in the church where you could go and kneel down and they would pray over you. So I was almost called a Catholic for a while, but it kept me going to school.
What did downtown Norman look like?
Norman at that time? Well, you might think this is funny, but I've seen merchants. It was quite a few years before they put in any kind of pavement, and they used brick, laid brick in regular, but that didn't work out successfully because they hauled cotton into a cotton gin here in Norman that was just 2 blocks off of Main Street. And so with those muddy streets, it was quite a problem, but they were thinking too.
Were the buildings made of brick or wood at that time?
The
buildings.
Oh, most of them were brick.
Brick. What were some of the major businesses in Norman?
Furniture and undertaking were together, grocery stores, and clothing. Those were the 3 main stores.
Do you remember Statehood Day when Oklahoma became a state in 1907?
I was, yeah, they had a parade. And it was so muddy that they couldn't very well use any wagons or things like that. And they had to ride horses down these muddy streets.
Was there a big celebration in Norman?
Absolutely.
Tell me about it.
Well, most of it was done on horseback. The merchants wanted their names put on, painted, and they had a painter here in town that painted signs, and they could put just a broad piece on sign cloth, hang it on the saddle and down, and you could have, if a merchant wanted to pay a little bit extra, he could advertise that way. As those horses went down the street, here's I. M. Jackson, here's H.P. Meyer. Name was put on by a sign painter. And that was a long time ago.
What did you do on Statehood Day?
Yeah. They generally had things planned for me but I wasn't but about 7 years old.
Were there many saloons in Norman?
The what?
Were there many saloons in Norman?
There was. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, we had, the Chickasaw Saloon was on the middle of the 200 block of Main Street. The Indians from across the river out here, regardless if there was quite a bit of water in the river, they'd come across, swim their horses. They'd come over. Now this is a God fact. They'd ride in, they had these swinging doors in the saloon. One of them would get in there and open have it so he could hold it. They would ride up to the bar and order their drink. Well, some of the people in Norman kind of rejected that. They thought it might cause trouble. Because when they started to leave, they had swinging doors in the saloon. They'd hit that door and open like, come out and go down Main Street with shooting. Now it was pretty wild in those days.
What were the names of the other saloons in town?
Chickasaw Saloon was the main one, and they had swinging doors, so naturally they were the ones that got the business.
What did the inside of that saloon look like?
Look, great big bar with a large mirror. They had bottles of whiskey and beer lined up along there. When they came in, they also had whiskey in larger containers, so they could add anything they wanted. But it was very peculiar to watch them ride those horses in the saloon up to the bar and order their drink. A little wild too, if you want to know something.
Were you ever in that saloon?
Oh yes, it's just half block from where we lived. They had 2-story buildings there, and Dad had the upstairs into like a home, rooms. So we'd go up the steps and go into your home. Chickasaw Saloon was the main place for the people that wanted to get a beer or buy a whiskey, and especially the people from the Chickasaw Nation, which was on the other side of Norman businesses. And the Indians had come over horseback, regardless of how much water was in that river. They would hit it and come to Norman. They wouldn't get off and tie their horse, but they would swing the doors. They had double doors, like, swing the doors, and the Indians would ride in up to the bar and order a whiskey. People got a little bit sore of them in a way, because invariably when they drank, they got a little noise in. When they come out of that saloon, every one of them carried six-shooters in holsters on the belt around their waist. They'd jerk that out and start shooting and take out West Main Street and come down to the Canadian River. It was pretty wild in those days.
What kind of lighting did the saloon have? What kind of light fixtures?
I don't recall exactly, because I was too young to even let you go. However, I did help sweep out.
You did?
And they paid because there's only 4 doors to our furniture and undertaking store. And it was the Chickasaw Saloon.
Did they have tables and chairs in the saloon?
In the saloon or the big bar. Mm-hmm. Now the Indians, when they came over horseback and rode right in, the doors swung open on double hinges.
Yeah.
And they'd ride right up to the...
Mm-hmm. What did the Chickasaw Saloon do with all the whiskey at Statehood Day?
What did what now?
You know, they had prohibition at Statehood.
Mm-hmm.
What did they do with all the whiskey?
You could buy it in, they had quart bottles,
Mm-hmm.
they had jugs,
Mm-hmm.
they had wooden kegs.
But you know, at Statehood, whiskey was then against the law.
No, not that time.
But after Statehood it was, wasn't it, 1907?
When Statehood, yes, and Oklahoma went dry.
What'd they do with all the whiskey then?
Well, none of them was dumb enough to overstock themselves, and then the people that wanted to buy, you could buy it in kegs,
Okay. Yeah.
or you could buy it in cases. Mm-hmm. They get rid of it that way.
What year did you graduate from high school?
Oh, well, I played high school football. 1914, I believe it was the last year.
Tell me about, do you remember your commencement exercise?
In the university or in high school?
High school.
Very well, yes, because I was in the glee club and had to go up on the stage with the rest of the seniors or the glee club.
Do you remember who gave the commencement speech?
Yes, sir. The superintendent of the public school was a man by the name of Butcher, B-U-T-C-H-E-R. And he was a good talker.
Why did you attend the University of Oklahoma? Any reason?
Not necessarily that it was more convenient than to go someplace like up to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
To a school. Because in those days they had a high school and public school, and the first university school, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe I'm telling the truth about that, you had to pay a tuition to go to the university.
How much was the tuition?
I don't remember
Yeah.
how much it cost.
What did you study at the university?
What did I study?
Yes.
Can't remember. Outside of just ordinary, the state was divided up. Indian Territory was across the river, the Canadian River. They didn't have bridges or anything like that, and when the boys wanted to come over to raise cane, they'd jump those horses off in that water, they'd swim across, come over, pull out the 6-shooters and start shooting, and then we knew that they were on the way, and they'd ride right in, had swinging doors in the saloon.
Would you tell me about being on the OU football team, 1915?
19 when?
Was it 1915 you played football?
Yeah.
Tell me about being on the football team.
Well, this was at the university
Yeah.
in 1915.
Mm-hmm.
They just came out and said that they were going to organize a team, and they offered anybody that wanted to buy a season ticket. It took care of all of the football games that season that was here in the high school and in the university, so they wouldn't miss out on it. And that got a lot of business for people in Norman.
What position did you play on the team?
On football, I was looking this afternoon at some pictures. I was halfback and then got to play fullback.
What was your win and loss record?
Oklahoma won more games than they lost, and they were wise enough to sell books of tickets in them because they could do that for a season ahead of time. And these books, and the merchants went for that because they didn't cost as much.
What did your uniform look like?
The what?
What did the uniforms look like?
Regular football pads that had cane. I think they were made out of cane, and they used stripes in your britches, and if they got wet or anything like that, it didn't ruin them.
What kind of helmet did you have?
They were leather.
Leather?
Leather and cardboard.
Who was the football coach?
Well, Benny Owens was a fellow that came here from Kansas. They hired him to come down and talk to them. And he came down and got the student body together, told them what he could promise them, and then he wanted to know what they would promise him. And so he got along pretty good with the students.
What kind of man was he, Benny Owen?
What kind of what?
What kind of man was he, Benny Owen?
He didn't drink, he didn't cuss. He was a good football man because if things weren't going right, why, he'd call you out of the game and talk to you.
How did he talk to you?
G. Clyde was his worst cussing. G. Clyde. And he would hold up a game and call you out if you made an error in the way he felt the play should be made. And I mean it's soaked in too.
Tell me about some of the games that you remember and the big plays that you were involved with.
Well, we played Texas University. One year be here, next year it'd be down in Dallas. Because and you had to order your tickets ahead of time.
Where did you play the game in Dallas?
Out at the where, um, I don't remember the name. It had a park, but I don't remember the name of it anymore.
Was it Fair Park? Was that the name of it?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay. Was there a big celebration in Dallas in those years?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about it.
Well, there were too many drunks. People came to town to come and see a football game, and they stayed at a good hotel, went to a good saloon and bought whiskey, and they went down there to have a good time.
In which hotel did the football team stay in Dallas?
I don't remember that. I can see it, but I don't remember the name.
What part of town was it?
On the way to where the fairground is.
Mm-hmm. Was it close to downtown?
Mm-hmm.
How many years did you play for OU?
3.
15, 16, and 17?
14, 15, and 16.
Tell me about some of the players that you knew.
On the team?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them, Claude Reeds was a heavy-set, big fellow, fast, and he was a fullback. Let's see, who played halfback? I don't remember. We didn't have any colored folks. In fact, Norman got to the point that they put on placards, "Nigger, don't let the sun go down on your back." And I mean, it helped out a whole lot. We didn't have any niggers in the school and the university.
Yeah.
But they did away with that because some of those niggers was awful good football players.
When was the first black, the first nigger on the football team?
We never had an all-colored team.
Yeah.
They were mixed in with the white boys. But they had to earn their letter.
Yeah. What year did you graduate from OU?
When?
Yes.
1915.
Now, you graduated in 15, or is that just the year you played? Did you graduate in that year, or is that just the year you played?
That was my last year I played
Okay.
Oklahoma football.
Did you play in 1916?
Mm-hmm.
What about 1917?
No, 15.
15. Okay. Did you enlist, or were you drafted in the Army?
No, I enlisted, volunteered.
When?
Boy, I don't remember that. I went overseas, went to Camp Pike, Arkansas. That was a military base.
What part of Arkansas?
And I took the physical, and they give you kind of a test. And was lucky enough to make the grade.
Tell me about going to France, the boat trip.
Going to France?
Yeah.
Let's see, where did we ship out of?
Was it Hoboken? Was it Hoboken?
Hoboken, New York.
Yeah.
That was the shipping point.
What ship were you on?
Leviathan, if I'm not mistaken.
Tell me about the boat trip.
There wasn't much to tell, only they got scared to death of going over that we realized that we were sticking our neck out or done something, or gonna do something. And where did we land? Hoboken.
Okay, you left Hoboken. Did you land at Brest or La Havre?
Hoboken
Well, that's where you left from.
in New Jersey, and
Yeah.
Hoboken was the shipping point.
Did you land at Brest or La Havre?
I believe it was La Havre.
What unit were you a member of?
The what?
What division were you in the Army? What, the 90th?
It wasn't the 90th Division. It was the 87th Division.
Tell me about being in France during the war. What happened?
Well, it was kind of rough in a way. First, they had to billet us with French families. They didn't have the hotels and things like that to accommodate, so they'd pick so many and put them with people in France and pay them for it.
What did you do after that? Where did you go?
Let's see what. I worked for Morris and Company, were the meat packers in Oklahoma City.
Okay. But tell me, were you in any of the big battles in France?
Yes, several of them.
Tell me about them.
Well, it isn't. We had a major, had a colonel, and a major, and then the captains, and the first lieutenants, second lieutenants, then the privates.
What rank did you have?
I was a lieutenant.
A lieutenant. And were you in the infantry?
Yes.
Tell me about going over the top.
Oh, it's hard to explain. No fooling.
What were your feelings?
To get under cover as much as possible.
And what battles were you in France?
Well, it was more as to your landing points.
Were you at the Meuse Argonne?
Yes, I was in the Argonne Forest.
What happened there?
We took advantage of the situation of hiding as much as possible behind trees, because we didn't have the artillery that we had later on, and we had good company commanders that had had a little experience of hiding his men going through the forest. And we got by pretty good.
Were you at St. Mihiel?
Hmm?
Were you at St. Mihiel?
No. Saint, Saint Mihiel.
Yeah.
Mihiel.
Mihiel. Yeah, Mihiel.
Mihiel.
Were you there?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It was too rough to try to remember because they implanted some large artillery on roads that they knew that we would be marching, and it wasn't any fun.
Mm-hmm.
There was history wrote on that, the whole thing.
Is that history pretty accurate?
Yes, it was.
Where were you on Armistice Day, the day the war ended?
Ended? St. Mihiel. I believe it was in a camp.
Mm-hmm. What does the inside of a trench look like?
Inside of what?
The trenches?
Well, they there were very few of them that were dug with machinery.
Mm-hmm. How deep were those trenches?
They would be standing erect. You could just look over the edge.
Was there a big celebration when the war ended?
Yes.
Do you know where were you when the war ended?
The Battle of
Was it the Meuse Argonne or St. Mihiel?
we were in through St. Mihiel, but
What did you do whenever the armistice was declared at the 11th hour, the 11th day, 11th month? What did you do?
I bet that we was on the way to the treaty. And even my own men kidded me about it.
Did you and your men celebrate at that time?
No, not. But they had been through their billeting, what they called it, places to take care of their soldiers on these drives. And that way, we knew in advance how many men we could take care of, and got by without losing.
Yeah.
They did do a lot of they knew of places that we were bound to march through, and they they dug some and undermined it with some high explosive.
What did you think when you first saw the Germans? What was your reaction?
Well, there wasn't any fear. We had been forewarned that they had pretty good arms, ammunition. They had a small cannon, and from up in the highland, the thing that we had to watch the boats because we had to march in columns, and that kind of gave us away to a certain extent, and they took advantage of it.
Tell me about the boat trip back to America.
Well, we I even forgotten the port we left from, loaded out of France.
Was it Le Havre or Brest?
It was Le Havre.
Le Havre. Did you come into New York City?
New York City, and they, of course, advertised that the U.S. was coming home, and there was thousands of people down to welcome us back.
What did you think when you saw the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor?
I saluted it, just like a lot of others.
Was there a big victory parade in New York?
The what?
Did you have a victory parade in New York?
No. Mm-mm.
Just thousands of people there to greet you. How long before you got back to Oklahoma?
They sent us to Camp Dix, New Jersey. That was a military post. And they just kept us there. They sent the men to a theater in New York as a kind of a thank you deal. I'm trying to remember the name of the I don't remember the name of the theater or the play now, but I did for many years. And we had to promise to be back in our camp if they gave us permission to go to these shows.
Were they shows on Broadway?
Mm-hmm.
You remember which show you saw?
I was trying to think it. There was a show that there's a song very popular, and that's the reason we got to go to it.
What did you do when you returned to Norman? What'd you do?
Well, my mother died, and my father was living, and his mother, my grandmother, came down from Kansas to Oklahoma to live with us. So things were pretty well taken care of.
So what kind of work did you do after the war?
What
kind of work did you do after the war?
I think the first job that I had was across the street from our furniture and undertaking store was a bowling alley. And I got a job setting pins in the bowling alley.
You know, the student union at OU, that was built in memory of the soldiers that went to the war?
Yes, some of them, but not too many. They had the days to celebrate and had them come out in uniform and with the standard colors and flags.
Is your name in the Union?
Is there a name?
No, is your name on one of the plaques in the student union here?
Oh, back in those days, yes,
You know, there's a big plaque there with all the men that went to the war.
yes,
Is your name on that plaque?
yeah. And as you go down in the basement on the east side of the main building, they had a copper, it must have been 3 feet wide, and they had the names on that copper plaque.
Is your name on that plaque?
Yes, it's there today.
Mm-hmm. How long did you work in the bowling alley?
Well, that was after school, and the people that bowled came down after supper to when they could bowl.
When did you get married?
I was trying to think who married men. I've got that marriage license at home.
What was your wife's name?
What?
What was your wife's name?
Haverstock. Haverstock. Vida Haverstock.
Vida Haverstock.
Was my wife.
Where was she from?
From Oklahoma, up by Stillwater. And she had gone to Stillwater prior to coming to Norman to go to the university.
Do you remember the commencement at the university when you graduated?
Well, yes, kind of stuck up like we were proud of ourselves.
What year was that? What year was that?
I believe my certificate is 1915.
What did you do in the 1920s?
Well, I helped around in the furniture and undertaking business. Drove the hearse out to the cemetery, with a team, and where I could be. And at times I was inside of the store and worked.
Were there many of the young girls they call flappers in Norman?
Called what?
You know, the flappers in the 1920s, the young girls?
20.
Those are the ones that wore the short skirts and bobbed their hair.
That was only when they put on a parade
Yeah,
that they were dressed that way.
okay.
And there wasn't any pavement on the streets. It was muddy.
What about the 1930s, the Depression? How did the Depression affect you and your family?
It was after, I forget the year that I still have it, in a frame marriage license.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mr. Meyer, I think we have a good interview.
Yeah, for a guy that's hitting close to that 100 mark in years of age.
I think you're doing very well. Anything else about the OU football team you want to talk about?
Yes, the teams, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Texas, were 4 games that they looked forward to. We would have a coach on the midnight train out of here, Santa Fe, that would take us to Texas. And they paid all expenses, which we certainly enjoyed because we didn't have that kind of money.
How did football at that time differ from football today?
Oh, I think it's it depended on who the coach of the team was. Benny Owens lost his arm. He had a friend out here by the Canadian River Bridge, and they had quail out there. So Benny, they went in, man and woman. Benny got in his horse and buggy, and this man told him if he come out, it was close to the Canadian River, that he would show him where these quail were and guarantee him a mess of quail. So Benny went out, and he thought if he loaded his gun and he did turn his dog loose, the dog could flush the quail and he'd get him a mess of quail. Well, as he started to, he stopped down by the river bridge, and he loaded a gun and put it on the step of a buggy. And as the dog started to leap out, he hit that hammer on the shotgun. And that's where Benny lost his arm. But he got back in that car, in that horse and buggy, come to Norman, and I was working in Coon Lindsay's confectionery at the time. It pulled up out in front, and I noticed that Dr. Bobo and Dr. Lowther, where they had the office up over the confectionery store, and they helped Benny out of the car, out of the horse and buggy, and took him upstairs and amputated that arm off. So that's how Benny came with one arm. But he had a lot of guts.
Where did the OU team play the games here in Norman?
Out at the field out there, they had a regular football field.
Is that where it is today?
No. Let's see. You know where the engineering building is?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the football field in those days, and they had hog pasture. They had a fence about 4 feet high with hog wire, a 2x4 on the top of the post, nailed there, and people could come out. They didn't have a grandstand. They'd go out there and lean on that heavy timber that they'd build around, and that was our football field.
Do you still have your uniform?
We played football in uniform.
Oh, do you still have yours?
No, I gave it back to them.
You did?
Years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Meyer, I want to thank you for the interview.
Well, it was quite interesting to go through it.
Good. Thank you.